graders. My name is Miss Bloch, and I teach 5th grade band. In just a few minutes, you'll meet Mrs. Hershfield, who teaches 5th grade orchestra. We're here with you today to help you decide if you'd like to play an instrument in 5th grade, and if so, which instrument would be the best for you. Mrs. Hershfield and I are going to play all of the instruments that are available to you, and remember, you can only pick one, so you can only be in either band or orchestra. Now, when you're listening to all the instruments, we have 3 things we want you to think about to help you pick the right instrument. The first thing you want to think about is, what sound do you really love? Something that you would want to practice every day. For about 10 minutes is how much you need to practice in 5th grade. Okay? The second thing you want to think about is, how do you want to make the sound? Some of the instruments go under your chin and you play them with a bow. Some of them go in between your legs. Some of them go into your mouth or up to your mouth, and some use sticks or mallets. So think about what would be most comfortable for you and your body so that you're not uncomfortable when you're trying to learn to play your instrument. The last thing we want you to think about is, do you have 10 minutes a day to practice? So think about your schedule, your regular school schedule, and all the activities you like to do. If you think you can make 10 minutes a day to play your instrument to get better every week, then I think you'll have a great year in 5th grade band or orchestra. Now we're going to start with the orchestra instruments and Mrs. Hershfield.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Hershfield, and this is the violin. We can also use our fingers to pluck the strings. I'd like to play a song for you. You might have heard it before. I'm going to play the same song on all my instruments. Remember, when you take lessons and you practice and you learn to read music and use your ear, you can play any song on any of the band and orchestra instruments. Of the points Ms. Bloch brought out in her introduction video. Do you like the sound of the instrument? Do you like how it's played? Violin, you can play standing up or sitting in a chair. And do you want to practice? I'd like to talk briefly about lessons in school. Each week, we're assigned a certain day to each school. For instance, this year, on Monday, I was at Seth Boyden. So, say your school is Seth Boyden. That means on Monday, whether you're in the orchestra or the band, all the instruments have to do the same procedure, follow the same procedure, which is to bring your instrument to school. And you're going to get lesson time, and that time is during class time. That doesn't mean you're free. That means you're going to have to make sure you touch base with your teacher and make up whatever classwork you missed. So when you come to the lesson, it will be a small group, anywhere from, say, 5 to 8 people, and we'll work together, we'll play together for 25 minutes in a lesson book, and you'll get an assignment. And your job will be to bring your instrument home that night after school ends and practice. And practice as much as you can. Now we know some days maybe you can't practice. Well, on other days you can make up the time. We are very realistic, but it can be done. And if you don't practice, it will become very frustrating because you're not going to hear progress, and you're probably going to hear a lot of squeaks instead of the nice sounds that you're going to want to hear from your instrument. You might also be thinking, gee, I already play the trumpet at home. I've had lessons for 2 years. Well, if you've played one of these instruments that we're going over today before, a great idea would be to start a new instrument in school. That way you're a beginner, like all your classmates. If you don't want to do that and you really think, you know what, the instrument I'm playing already is just enough, I don't want any more instruments, I don't have time, then you may think about joining our orchestra or band in the middle of the year when we start rehearsing for the spring concert. If that's your case, your parents can always contact Ms. Bloch or I about your case and what you're feeling and what your parents are feeling about it. Now on to the viola. The one great thing about string instruments is they come in different sizes. These, I'm trying to get a little closer to the camera, are both violas. But you can see that this one is just a little bigger. So, violins, violas, and cellos come in different sizes. They come much smaller. It just happens to be this is the only one I have in my house. You'll also see that my viola has a black, kind of a hard shoulder rest, while my student viola has a nice cushy sponge. I give every single one of my violin and viola students a sponge and a rubber band to help you hold your instrument better and more comfortably. You'll also see that my viola here has some blue tapes on it, where this one does not. And that's because after you practice, these things mark where your fingers go, kind of like a fret of a guitar. After you practice, your fingers will know where to go, and then you take the tapes off. So let's hear the viola. It has a lower sound than the violin, but it looks the same almost. It's a little more mellow and lower. But again, small, that I can fit it on my shoulder, standing up or sitting down. Here's my Ode to Joy. And plucking, pizzicato. That's the viola. The last instrument is the largest, lowest instrument, the cello. The cello is rather large and it's sort of heavy. It is hollow inside. There's air inside of here, but it is still a lot heavier. So if you have to walk to school and carry your instrument once a week for your lesson back and forth, keep in mind that you need to do that. I'm not going to accept, well, it was raining and I was tired, and yeah, you have to bring it to school every week. The cello case is very flexible. It's like a winter coat. It goes on the cello. It's not very protective either. So when you're thinking about bringing the cello on a bus or throwing it in the trunk, maybe if you get a ride to school, think about being really careful, because as you can see, the case is not very protective, where the violin and viola cases are hard cases. I'm sure you've seen students at school carrying them around. The cello is played sitting down. There's an end pin, you can see, that I'm pulling out, and that adjusts it to the right height for the player. Again, they come smaller, bigger, just like the viola I showed you. The cello, though, is a much lower instrument, the lowest one we play in the 5th grade. Pizzicato. that's the cello. So in the orchestra, there are 3 instruments: the violin, viola, and cello. If you want to hear more of these instruments before you make your decision, or more of the band instruments, with your parents' permission, or maybe even supervision, you can look together. Go to YouTube and just look up the instrument. You can hear students your age playing them, to adults, to amateurs, meaning just beginners, to, you know, world famous musicians. So let me turn the rest of this program over to this block.
Okay, now we're going to move into the band family of instruments. Now, just like Mrs. Hershfield, I'm going to play Ode to Joy on all of the instruments so you can hear what they sound like. The first family we're going to talk about is the woodwind family, and we're going to talk about our low woodwind instrument, which is the clarinet. The clarinet is a reed instrument, so this piece of wood right here that's attached to my clarinet is what makes the sound. Now, we don't offer saxophone in 5th grade, so if you're interested in playing saxophone one day, sign up for clarinet. Clarinet's going to be most like the recorder. You're going to use all of your fingers to cover the holes. Here are the notes that you will play in 5th grade. And when you get a little bit more advanced, you play a little lower down to the bottom. Clarinet can actually also play really high, so here's what that sounds like. Okay, and that's the clarinet. Our second woodwind instrument is the flute. Now, people always ask me, what's the easiest instrument? Because that's what I want to sign up for. Here's the deal. There aren't any easy instruments. They are all difficult in different ways and take the same amount of 10 minutes a day practicing to get good at them. I will say that if you are thinking about playing the flute, it is the most challenging of all the band instruments. So you have to be ready for a challenge. The reason it's so challenging is because of the way it goes up to your mouth. Your mouth doesn't go in it. It doesn't go in your mouth. It holds up under your lip. So I'm pushing it against my face under my lip to hold it up. And then I blow across the hole, kind of like you're blowing across a bottle. You're going to use all your fingers on the flute, and here are the notes you will play in 5th grade. But you also have to like really high sounds because the flute is a high instrument. Those notes were actually very low on the flute, so here are the high sounds. Okay, so if you're up for a challenge, flute might be a great woodwind instrument for you. Okay, we have 2 brass instruments that you can choose from in 5th grade, and I'm going to start with the trumpet. Now, all brass instruments have a similar looking mouthpiece. The high instruments, the mouthpiece is a little smaller. Your lips go inside the mouthpiece, and we call that buzzing, and that's how you warm up to play. But when you put it through the entire instrument, it has a very different sound. You're only going to use 3 fingers on the trumpet, okay? And here are the notes you would learn in 5th grade. And that's the trumpet. Our next brass instrument is the trombone, and it's the biggest instrument in the band because it's the lowest instrument in the band. So if you like low, deep sounds, this would be a really good instrument for you. Yes, it's the biggest, but none of you are too small to play the trombone. I'm not very big, I'm just 5 feet tall, and even I can play the lowest note on the trombone, so you can too. The trombone, just like the trumpet, has its own mouthpiece, but it's a lot bigger because it's going to make a lower sound. That's the sound of the mouthpiece. You're not going to use any of your fingers separately on trombone. Trombone, you move your arm to certain slide positions that I will teach you, and that's how you play the notes on the trombone. So if you weren't really good at moving all of your fingers for recorder, maybe this is a good choice for you. Here are the notes you will play in 5th grade. Okay, the trombone does come in a special carrying case that looks like this. You just pick it up, carry it. If it's too heavy, you keep switching hands, but no one's too small to be able to carry this case to school. And this is the trombone. Our last instrument family is percussion, and you'll see we only have one percussion instrument in the band, and these are the bells. So let me hold up the keyboard so you can see. The bells are very similar to the piano. Use the same keyboard, except you're not going to use your fingers. You're going to use two mallets. So if you already know how to play piano, bells could be a very good instrument for you. There aren't any drums or any other percussion instruments in the 5th grade band. So if you want to be a percussionist, we all start on bells. Okay? The bells come in this nice rolling case, like a suitcase, or it will be a backpack case. Okay, and that comes with your rental. So we start off in 5th grade on the bells by just playing one note at a time, one stick in each hand. Sounds like this. As you get more advanced, you can do double stops, which are using two mallets at the same time. Okay, and these are the bells. They are very high pitched, so you have to like those sounds so you're able to practice at home. If you don't like really high pitched sounds, this wouldn't be for you, and it's pretty loud too. So those are all the instruments you can choose from for 5th grade orchestra and band. Now when you're doing your choices, you get to pick one thing. So think about the sound or the instrument that you really loved that you want to practice at home, and you're going to make that your first choice. Your second choice is going to be from the other family. So if your first choice is from band, your second choice is from orchestra. If your first choice is from orchestra, your second choice is for band. The sign-up form is set up that way, so you just click whichever one you want and we'll give you your options for your second choice. If you have any questions, feel free to email myself or Mrs. Hershfield. Our information is in the info email that you had to get this link, and I can't wait to meet all of you next school year.